All right, so this was actually Laura's idea to do more of a workshop style, which I love. So we've covered a lot of broad topics about marketing and social media. And so we're going to start digging into like action items. That way, each week we're building on what we're doing within marketing or social media. And so this week, I think one thing that is missed quite a bit is Instagram highlights, because when we do highlights on Instagram, I don't know if everyone knows what they are, but they're basically circles in your profile that you can organize different posts on. So you can make one album about buying tips, the other about selling tips, and you can really make that whatever you want it and organize it so that if someone's visiting your profile and they were like, oh yeah, I've been thinking about selling, and then they can click on that album and just go through what you've posted about selling a home or buying a home, whatever it is they're looking for. It can be super helpful for someone. And then that way you're getting more out of your Instagram. So we're going to cover how to create highlights, how to organize them, and then hopefully this week, if you guys get a chance, we can all work on either auditing what we already have or creating them all together. So feel free, this is definitely more of a workshop style. I would love for you guys to be able to do this on your own as well. So if I missed something or you have a question, please stop me. Laura, you're really good at this too, so feel free to jump in if you have any thing to add on this. So, okay, I'm gonna share my screen here. Can everybody see my PowerPoint okay? Yes, cool.
Yes.
Okay. So Instagram highlights, when you go onto your Instagram, highlights are, can you see my mouse when I hover over? Laura, can you see my mouse when I hover over it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So your highlights are these circles here right under your bio where it says edit profile, promotions, and contact. You have these albums, and what they are basically, when you create a story on Instagram, which is their photos that go onto the top of your page, they last for 24 hours. You can decide that you really like that story and you want it to stay. You can put them into these highlight albums down here, and you can categorize them any way you want. So your highlights are categorized. They're right here on your profile. They don't go away until you delete them. And unlike stories, because your story is actually going to disappear after 24 hours. I'll actually share, let me share my, let's see if I can do this. Oh, sorry. Can you see my Instagram here? Or are you still seeing my PowerPoint?
PowerPoint.
Okay, let me see if I need to share something else. My desktop. Okay, so here's my actual Instagram. Now, Instagram is typically on your phone, but I'm jumping on here on my computer just to show you, but you're gonna wanna use Instagram on your phone. Your stories are up here when you click your profile picture. Your stories are something that you can flip through and they go away after 24 hours. So when you get onto your mobile app at the top of your screen, it's not showing up here because it's my desktop, but on your app, you're going to see circles up here at the top of your screen from people who've posted stories. And those are those are actually getting more traction than posts themselves. I'm seeing more and more people post every 2 or 3 days, but they're posting onto their story every single day, multiple times a day. So the reason for that is because you can post a lot of different stickers, you can post polls and questions. It's a whole nother workshop, but there's more engagement into the stories versus the posts that go onto your profile. So I'm going to switch back here. That's what a story is. And so when you like a story that you've created, you can save them into your highlight album. And that's what these are here. So does anybody have questions on what highlights are or how to do them? Okay. So from there, we're going to create a highlight. So once you've created a story that you really like and you have a number of them, you'll probably want a few stories at least to start with in each highlight album. You go to your profile page on your Instagram and there's going to be a little circle here that says new. So you click on that. And then from there, it's going to pull up an archive of your stories that you've done. And so you kind of have to think ahead, like, what do you want this album to be? So the first step would be to plan what albums you want to show up on your highlight reel. For me, I have buying tips, selling tips, market insights, and I think I have reviews, and I call it client love. So for this one, say you want buying tips, you're gonna go through your stories and select the stories that you've created that cover buying tips, and you select those. Once you do that, it'll ask you to upload a cover and to name your highlight reel. And once you do that, that then goes back to this page. It goes back to on your profile page where it shows up as an album. Now, the order in which you do this matters. So if you want like selling tips to show up first on your page, you have to do this album last. So the order in which you upload your highlight albums matters on your profile screen. If it matters to you, it might not matter to you which one shows up, but if it does, if you want them to be in a certain order, whichever one you want to show up first, you create that last and then go down the line there. So you want to edit the cover photo. You can use your camera roll to upload your album cover. That's going to show up like as the first picture in your album. Some people, if you look at a lot of different Instagrams, some people have like a cute icon for each of them. You can create those in Canva for free. You can also go to Etsy and there are real estate related cover photos that you can buy for like $5 and upload those. That they're more of a theme. I actually like to use one of the stories as my cover photo. So it's actually real people showing up in that cover, but you can do it however you want to. So that's how to create a highlight album from your stories. Where a lot of agents are missing is they're creating albums that are more about, you know, their dog or a vacation or something like that, when really you could use these towards what you're doing in the market, tips to help your buyers and sellers, testimonials, market insights. If you do a lot of business in a certain area, you can make a whole album for that particular area. So there's lots of things you can do there. Here's actually a whole list of different categories you can use. I would suggest at least having 5 albums. The reason being is because if a viewer is going through a number of different Instagram profiles and all of them have 5 or more, that fills up, I'll show you here, that fills up your profile page when you have 5. If you have less than 5, they're only going to see like 2 or 3 here. It just feels incomplete. And so you want to make that nice and full and lots of content. I said in my email earlier, bingeable content, because you do want to think like Netflix. People don't want to jump off of your Instagram to go to your website to find out more. They want to find the information they're looking for right where they are. So the more you can categorize these topics for them and make it easy to get the full story from you about the topic that they're trying to learn about, the better. And if they really like what you're posting in there, the odds of them going to your website or contacting you from that are going to be a lot greater. So the more info, the better. The key to this, as I'm talking about it, and as I was looking through this yesterday too, is you really have to be aware then of what you're posting on your stories, right? So you have to think ahead, okay, well, I need more stories into my market insights. So then you have to capture more stories about that topic in order to put it in your highlight album, because you can't upload photos from your camera roll to your highlight album. They have to be from your stories. So just keep in mind when you're posting stories to your Instagram, are those things that you're going to want to put into your highlight album, and maybe even plan that out a little bit so you're getting more updated information into your highlight albums. Now, I did say earlier, the stories that you put into your albums, they don't disappear unless you delete them. So as I was creating this presentation, actually, I'm looking back and I had stories in my highlight albums from when I first started real estate. And people were having to go through 3-year-old content to get to my content that I'm posting today. And the chances of them doing that are very, very slim. So every once in a while, go back through what you've posted into your highlight album and make sure it's relevant content for today. That way people are staying engaged with it. Laura, do you have anything to add on that? You're doing a great job on your stories.
Trying to unmute. Okay, sorry. No, I think that about covers it. I know it is challenging to remember to do it every time you post a story, but in my mind, when I am posting a story, I have like 5 things I'm thinking about for each post. I'm like location, tagging myself, tagging High Garden, adding to the highlights. Let's see, what else did I miss? Location, that might be it. You know, so it's just kind of a little checklist I'm doing through my head.
Yeah, so and what Laura's talking about, she does a great job of tagging, like say she's at a coffee shop and she does a lot of downtown properties, she'll tag that coffee shop gets notified and they can post that to their stories. And then if you really love the engagement that you got off that story, or you think that that's something you want to keep, that's when you're going to tag it to your highlight album. So when you create a story, what will happen is as soon as you upload it to your story, at the bottom of the screen, there will be a little button that says highlight. And all you have to do is hit that button that says highlight, and it will ask you what album you want it to add to. And once you add to that album, that highlight album goes to the front of your profile. So the most recent album that you're adding to is going to go to the front of your profile on your page. So you might want to make sure you're dispersing the stories equally too. Just keep them all rotating. Tips for highlights: have enough albums to fill your page, a minimum of 5. You can do more than that. If you have other categories that you definitely want to cover, you can do more, but I would suggest 5 just to make sure that your profile looks nice and full. Decide the order if that matters to you, and plan that ahead. So like we said, the first album you do is going to show up last on the screen. And if you do more than 5, it's not even going to show up on your profile. People are going to have to swipe to get to it. So the most important albums you'll want to do last, so they end up first on your profile feed. If you decide that you have, like, if you're going back through your albums and you already have some on there, but you don't think that they're, relevant for what you're trying to do, if you want to edit or delete them, all you have to do is tap on the album from your app, hold it down, and that will pop up with an option to edit or delete them. You can also change the cover photo for them too at that point. And then to create a cover photo, we kind of talked about that. I would just go on to Canva. If you go to Canva, it's free, and you can type in Instagram cover photo and it will come up with an option, a template, and it has different like characters that you can use if you want to theme your albums. So if you want some ideas on whose profile to look at, some great people to follow, or worth watching their content and how they organize what they do, Katie Lance, you've probably heard of her. She's actually a real estate coach. She's a realtor, but she does a lot of coaching on marketing, social media, Facebook, Instagram. She has a great YouTube channel too, but she uses a lot of her YouTube videos and remarkets them on Instagram. Right here, you'll see her highlight covers. She just does like a cute little emoji type of thing on each one. And then Jason Pantana, he's actually a marketing coach for Tom Ferry. He has lots of free content on his Instagram and YouTube. But I definitely suggest watching him, how he does things, because he uses a lot of the algorithm, right? So don't just pay attention to what he's posting, but how he's posting it, the verbiage. I focus a lot on the format of like what they're doing. So like for instance, the people who really care about engagement and people reading what they do, they're posting right now in a lot of bullet points. You'll hardly see them post anything and have like a long paragraph about anything. So I paid a lot of attention to that, how many hashtags they're using, all of that. You'll notice all of these that I posted on here, they have a full list of highlight albums. And you can change it up. Actually, all of them have like a themed type of cover. Heather, looks like you have a question. Can you please go to the back to slide 4 at the end so we can see the suggested categories again? Yes. So categories, let's go through these. Tips for sellers. So, and this could be anything from what is a CMA? How do I come up with a CMA? Staging tips. You know, do you know what your home's worth? And link to your website so they can ask you to do a CMA. What's the market like right now for sellers? We all know in a lot of our markets is a seller's market. That's a great thing to post about right now. The best thing about stories is you can really mix it up between video, photos, and text. It doesn't have to be a photo like on your profile. So you can change it up and get creative. You can put stickers on there. You can mark all over it. Tips for buyers, great one. I'm planning to do like a whole like buying process in an organized way on my stories, like step 1, step 2, and here's why, and then post those into my highlight album for buyers. Market insights, this could be as simple as taking a snapshot of MyBoar's insights that they do or whatever your market does for the MLS, pulling the data from there and really driving home why it matters to your viewers, posting about that and then adding that to an album would be awesome. And if someone knew, honestly, if you did that and people knew that they could go to that one spot and know what's going on in the market right now, how huge is that? Behind the scenes is great one, showing like if you're pulling weeds out of a mulch bed for your sellers, post about that. Laura does a lot of behind the scenes work with inspection items and like quizzes and polls. I mean, can you speak to that, Laura, how much engagement you get on your stories when you're doing quizzes and polls?
Yeah, I wish I could, or I should post a quiz or poll on every post. I mean, you can't do that obviously, but people who I don't normally talk to, I mean, it's a button, it wants you to push, and it's funny how many people interact with it. Even people who I think, you know, a friend of a friend who I don't talk to, and they accidentally hit the wrong button, they'll message me and be like, oh, I'm sorry, I meant to say that I loved the look of this, not blah, blah, blah. You know, so even that starts a conversation. Ask them to do something, they're interacting, it's gonna stick a little bit better.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and you do a lot of like, I even, sometimes you get me like on inspection items when it comes to like sewers or like work that's being done at a property, like doing little quizzes on what's going on with that or how much that would cost or whatever. You know, that just gets people to like engage and they see if they're right, like you're saying, and then that gets sent to you as a message. So in those things, when you post that to your highlight, still remain active. So if someone goes to that highlight later and they answer that poll, that's going to get sent to you. So even if you do for like tips for sellers, what's your home worth, and do like a little question, and say like, you know, fill in the blanks, send me your address and I'll send you what your home is worth. That's going to stick on that highlight album. And anytime someone goes to that, if they want to know what their home's worth, all they have to do is send you your address. Another one that's a good one, I'll have to pull it up, that I've done, is send me your rent payment and the area in which you'd like to live, and I'll send you a home that you could buy for that same rent payment. And so I'll get with my lender and say, hey, here's the rent payment. What's the price of home they could get, and get the criteria, and I'll send them a couple options of homes that they could purchase for that same amount that they're renting for, especially right now with rents going up. So those are things you could really get creative with. Just Google ideas, and there's tons of them on there, and post them to your story, and then make sure they get saved to your highlight album. Your life is a big one. I know I mentioned something about your dog earlier, which is fine. People love to see your pets. They love to see your kids. They love to see what you do outside of work. I post a lot about that. But I keep that into one category. I don't overwhelm every album with all of that. So try to make that just a portion of what you're posting about. Lots and lots of people engaging with memes and things that make them laugh. So anytime you can find humor in situations, I think that's awesome. Make sure to post those into your albums too. Client love and testimonials. I combined this into one album for myself, meaning if I have a closing, if I have a review, whatever it might be, I'm posting that all in one album. And then community info. And I would be careful a little bit with this, because if you get too specific, some people might think you only work in that area. But if you do a lot of business, if you're an expert in a certain city or area, it's not a bad idea to go ahead and do an album on that as well. So we had a question about the names of the people I suggested to follow. I'll bring that back up here. Katie Lance is a good one, and the names are up here at the top. Katie Lance, Jason Pantana, Chelsea Pites is awesome. She does a ton of webinars, lots and lots of quick videos on things like this, actually, on how to boost your engagement, simple things to do to make your Instagram and your Facebook easier for your viewers to take in and interact with. And then Erica Richmond Realtor. She has 8,500 followers. She's a realtor, but she does a great job with design tips, buyers processing, what it looks like when you're listing your home and walking people through the process. So she'd be a great one to follow too. I suggest what I like to do is go through a lot of different people who are doing it well and pick up things that I like about what they did and spin it in my own way. So I wouldn't suggest copying what they're doing, but if you like something they're doing, definitely take it and make it your own, put your own personalization on it. Homework. So for this week, I would love it if you guys could go to your Instagram. If you haven't had you don't have an Instagram account, create one. Start posting to your albums and just think ahead about what you want your albums to look like and do some quizzes, do some posts, what you're out there doing today. What does the market look like with the COVID-19 situation? There's lots of things you can be posting about. So create your Instagram, create your highlight albums. If you already have highlight albums, I would highly recommend doing an audit to them. Go through them. Are they doing you a favor by being on your page? Is there a reason they're on there? Is there some reason why someone would go to that and interact with that album or that post? Is it of value for your viewers? So go through an audit. If you would like me to audit your page, please send me your handle. I'm happy to go through and audit your Instagram and give you any suggestions and tips. And then make sure each album is themed and has a clear purpose. One thing I found when I was going through mine is I had a few that kind of were the same subject, just labeled differently. And so that's not doing you any good. Go back through and make sure that each album has a clear purpose. Why would someone click on that album? So be very clear. The other part to that is when you're creating the album, it'll ask you what you want it to be called. Make sure the title of the album is very short. If it's too long, it will get cut off and people won't see it. So just test it out, go back and look at it on your profile and make sure you can read the whole title. If not, you'll have to cut it down a little bit. And then create or upload a photo for each album. So that means the little emoji here. So you can make it like this, or you can just use a picture that you have on your camera roll that kind of shows what the album's about. And you can see here, the titles of these albums are very short. Podcast, video, wine, Rex the cat, family, or coaching, like just very much to the point, and you know exactly what you're getting when you click on each of those. So that's the homework for the week. Again, if you would like me to go through your Instagram and do an audit, I'm happy to do it. Does anybody have questions on grading albums or ideas or anything like that, or anything to add to this? All right. Well, thank you guys. We'll be back next Tuesday. I'd love to hear your feedback on what you came up with. And hopefully if you have done the homework, please share with us so we can all see too and encourage you. The other part to that is as we do this, make sure we're adding each other on Instagram and Facebook and commenting on each other's posts and showing each other some love and encouragement that goes a long way. And it's been nice to create some relationships that way too. So have a great rest of your week. Bye, guys.